Where do Netflix, Airbnb, and NASA actually store their files? The same place you can, a service called Amazon S3, and it costs pennies per gigabyte. AWS S3, Simple Storage Service, is Amazon's cloud storage system for storing files of any kind: images, videos, backups, logs, datasets, entire websites. You upload a file, Amazon stores it, you get a link to retrieve it anytime from anywhere. The analogy that actually works: think of S3 like an infinite number of filing cabinets in a warehouse you never have to maintain. You rent exactly as much space as you use, the warehouse never burns down, and you can hand anyone a key to access any individual drawer. Here's the moment this decision bites a team. A startup builds their app and stores user profile photos directly on their web server. 6 months later, they scale to 3 servers, and suddenly users on server B can't see photos uploaded through server A because those files only live on one machine. The team scrambles to sync files between servers, it breaks under load, and they lose a weekend firefighting something that was never the actual product. S3 solves this permanently. Every server, every service, every region hits the same storage. No sync issues, no disk space monitoring, no "we ran out of space at 2 a.m. incident." That's why teams from solo developers to Fortune 500 companies store an S3 from day one. S3 is built around 2 concepts: buckets and objects. A bucket is a top-level container, essentially a named storage namespace you create in a specific AWS region. A region is just Amazon's term for a geographic cluster of data centers. When you create a bucket, you pick a region like US East 1 or EU West 2, which is where your data physically lives. An object is any file you store inside a bucket, plus the metadata attached to it. Metadata means information about the file, its size, content type, when it was last modified. Every object gets a unique key, which is just its name and path within the bucket. So a file stored at photos, user, 123, avatar.jpg. That full string is the key. When you upload a file, S3 doesn't store it on one hard drive and call it done. Amazon automatically replicates that object across multiple physical devices within your chosen region, by default across at least 3 separate availability zones. An availability zone is an isolated data center within a region. This is why S3 advertises 11 nines of durability. That's 99.99999%, meaning losing your data is genuinely extraordinary. Access control works through bucket policies and IAM permissions. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. It's Amazon's system for defining who can do what. You can make a bucket completely private, allow specific AWS accounts, or make individual objects publicly readable with a URL anyone can hit. And if this is the kind of thing you want to understand, Stack Future covers one concept like this every day. You can also enable versioning on a bucket, meaning S3 keeps every previous version of an object every time it's overwritten. Deleted a file by accident? With versioning on, you retrieve the previous version. Say you're building a web app and users can upload profile photos. You configure an S3 bucket called MyAppUserUploads in US East 1. In your backend code, you use the AWS SDK, the software library Amazon provides, and call the putObject method, passing it the bucket name, the key like avatars, user456.jpg, and the file contents. The file lands in S3. Your database stores just the key string, not the file itself. When you need to display the photo, you either make the object publicly readable and serve the URL directly, something like https myappuseruploads.s3, amazonoz.com avatars user456 jpg, or you generate a pre-signed URL, which is a temporary access link that expires after a set time, like 15 minutes. Pre-signed URLs are how you serve private files without opening your entire bucket to the public. If you skip pre-signed URLs and accidentally set your bucket to public, every file inside becomes readable by anyone with the URL. That misconfiguration has leaked sensitive data from real companies. S3 now warns you explicitly when public access is enabled. S3 stores files as objects inside buckets, replicates them automatically across data centers, and gives you precise control over who can access what. That architecture is why it's the default storage layer for most of what runs on the internet. A natural next concept: how CloudFront sits in front of S3 to serve files faster by caching them at edge locations closer to your users. If this clicked for you, A-Like helps other people find it.